Welcome to the metaphysical journey. In our everyday lives, we rely heavily on our cars. They serve a very important purpose. They get us from one place to another. They take us everywhere we want to go. And we fully expect that every time we turn the key, the car is going to start up and it's going to run perfectly. Sometimes, though, that doesn't always happen. You may start hearing weird noises coming from the car, or maybe the battery runs dead, or it just won't start at all, and you have no idea what's going on, or a little light will pop up. The engine light will pop up, and we all hate to see that. Check engine. That's always scary. What does that mean? Because it usually involves money. And other little lights are there to indicate when we need to check fuel or oil. And so the lights in the cars are there for a reason, to give us a sign that we need to stop and check something out. On our spiritual journey, we don't have cars that take us from one place to the other. It's just us. We're walking that path, usually alone, and we rely on our intuition and everything around us and our guides to kind of help us get us where we need to be. But there are times where we start to feel run down. We can feel stalled. We can even feel stuck sometimes on the journey. We're just stuck. We don't know what to do. We don't know where to go, which direction to take. And that's usually an indicator that it is time for a spiritual diagnostics checkup. So for this message, I am Mike, and I'll be serving as your spiritual diagnostics consultant. And what I'm going to do is walk you through a 6-point checkup for yourself. And we'll be looking at different systems, comparing you to your car. And I hope that you'll find some stuff that may give you pause for thought, or some tips of things that can help you to progress along your path. The very first system we're going to look at is the electrical system. So Alma, check the battery. Now, that's a line from Sister Act. It's one of the funniest things in the movie. I have never forgotten that. I love it. And in that moment is when Whoopi's talking to a woman who's a piano player, and she doesn't have her hearing aid turned on, so she doesn't hear the cue to start playing. So Whoopi says, Alma, check the battery, and because her hearing aids are off. And so she does. But this card, and by the way, this is a special oracle deck created by me for this reading, so you can't find this in a bookstore, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, not sure. But this very first card is focused on the battery check. That's very important. In your car, if your battery is dead, nothing's going to work. Now, I drive a hybrid, and a lot of it's battery operated. It has this big battery packs in the back, and I thought that's what controlled everything. But I learned that the little battery up front is what everything relies on. And so when my car didn't start one day at all, I thought, oh, great, it's going to be thousands of dollars to replace all those battery packs in the back. No, it was just a small little battery that I picked up, and everything worked fine. So I was happy. But in our spiritual life, that battery is huge. And that's the energy that we operate on. And as light workers, you work through a lot of energy. It flows through you, comes in, goes out, and you give a lot away. You really do give a lot of your energy to other people when you work with them. And do you take the time really to recharge? And that's the next card. It is time to recharge. You have to do that. This is the most important thing, because if your battery does not work, nothing else is going to function properly, if it even functions at all. So you have to take the time to recharge. And that can be done in a variety of ways. Of course, we always hear about meditation, and meditation comes in many different forms. There's also just taking a nap, resting, just give yourself a day off, take a break, get away, go somewhere just by yourself. Maybe spend time journaling. Just take some time that doesn't involve you giving energy away, and allow you to pull that energy back in to recharge your battery. one of the other things in batteries that's just really important, and this is the next card, and it says the earth is calling you, and this is about grounding. Now, in your car battery, if you turn the key and there's there's just a click. One of the first things that you go and do is you open the hood and you check the terminal cables to see if they're loose. And if they're loose, you tighten them up. And very often that's the problem, and the car will start right up. That's an easy fix, right? Well, for us, it's not as easy, but it's not that hard either. Sometimes all we need to do is just ground, to go outside, bare feet on the ground, and allow that earth energy to come up to help us recharge our batteries. If you are always out there doing energetic work and you're always up flying around in the sky and everything, you do have to come back to earth and reground just to get that polarity, that balance back. So it's can be sometimes as simple as, again, taking a break, as the last card talked about, taking a break to get away, pull that energy back in, and then just reground. Maybe go out in nature and just let it surround you and let the energy from nature flow into you and fill your battery back up. Hug a tree. It sounds crazy, but it actually does work. You can pull the energy from the tree. There's so many things around us that can help us be grounded. Take the time to stop and smell the roses, even. I mean, a simple thing such as that, and just be present in the moment and allow yourself to be recharged by the world around you. Work with crystals. That's another great way as well. There are many things. You know what works for you. So just if you're feeling kind of out of whack energetically, take the time to recharge in the way that has always worked for you in the past. The next system we're going to look at is the wiring system. So is there a disconnect somewhere? Now, wiring is important. In our cars, wires come loose for a variety of reasons. Often it's because maybe they weren't tight, or you might live in a place where there's a lot of potholes and it can shake things loose. I know I personally love classic Volkswagen Beetles. I have two, and one of them it's very old wire. It's from the 70s, and some of the wiring is original, and so it's gotten brittle, it breaks, and sometimes animals get up under there and they chew on things, and mice, for whatever reason, love that old wiring, the casing of it. They like to eat it, and it creates problems. So you'll have a time where one headlight will work and the other will not, and you wonder, what? It's the wiring. That happens in our spiritual lives as well. It's very easy to become disconnected, and this disconnect is from the spiritual source that we have coming in. And if we are not staying fully connected to that, then the messages that we get, or the frequency of those messages, frequency meaning how often that we have coming in, it may start to get a little spotty, and you'll actually feel this when it happens. I've experienced this where it's like, my guys aren't talking to me. What is wrong? Have I messed up? What's going on? And it was just a matter of that I wasn't stopping to take some time to reconnect with them and make that my sole intent. My purpose was specifically to spend time with them, instead of, okay, while I'm doing this, and this, I expect y'all to keep talking to me. How could they? I wasn't mentally focused on it. There was my lack of focus was a disconnect, and my wiring wasn't fully flowing because of that. So the loose wiring is often because of our mindset or where we are. We're so distracted. We've got so much on our plate. We can't stop to make that full connection. It's like the experiment you did when you were in school, where you have the two soup cans with that string in the middle, and one talks into it. On the other end, it's just kind of garbled. It can be like that whenever we don't have that tight connection. Other types of disconnects that can help, actually not help, but hurt us, are when we listen to other people, where we are not truly just connecting to our guides and to spirit, but we're allowing other things to start coming in, and that can cause the disconnection of those transmissions that we should be receiving. So keeping our wires tight and keeping tight with spirit is very important. Otherwise, a disconnection can happen and the wiring can become faulty. So we have to always be aware of that. Another disconnect could be ego, that you are receiving transmission or information, it's flowing in nicely, but your ego, it becomes like a party line phone, and your ego hops in and says, no, 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 no. And you start to doubt that. So that disconnection can affect so many things, your confidence, your self-esteem. You can start to doubt your own gifts if you're not allowing the connection to flow freely and you don't keep that connection tight. The next system is the navigation system, and this flows very nicely with the wiring system, because if our connections aren't tight, the navigation system isn't going to work as well as it should. Now, every person has their own unique navigation system. Just like in your car, it depends on the type of car you have, is the navigation system they put in. There's just different ways to do it. And the different companies that they'll use for that. There's also navigation systems on your phone. There's a variety of apps that do that. So you can pick and choose which one you want. Navigation systems can be set up for fastest route, or the route with less traffic, or no road construction. You have a lot of different options to choose from. In your spiritual guidance system, it's pretty much one option, and it's yours. It's unique to you. Your navigation system isn't designed for me to use or anyone else, and vice versa. It's specifically unique to you. So your system, your guidance system is critical to maintaining your course on your journey. You have to stay true to that. And one thing on that is on that as well, on the navigation system, is that it can sometimes be very easy to stop listening to the voice coming from inside and start to rely on other people to tell you the direction of where you should go next. And that leads into the next card, which is, who's controlling your destiny? There's a line from an old dance song that I've always remembered, and it said, if you don't know your destination, who controls your destiny? This is important. Who does control your destiny? It should be you. It should be you specifically, based on your intuition and what you know to be right for you. Because again, your navigation system was custom designed just for you. The little voice that comes out of it is a voice that you will recognize. You'll know it from all other voices. So it's important to always follow that. The next card is one I just had to throw in because I love this saying, there are no spiritual lap dances. And what this means is that it's very easy for us to become lazy. That it's like, all right, I've got so much going on. I'm so busy. I really don't have time to stop right now and meditate. I don't have time to connect with my guides, but I need an answer. So I'm just going to go to someone and have them pull a card for me, and they'll tell me what to do. The information you can get from card readings is beautiful. It's great. And it's very helpful for your highest spiritual good, but it's not what you should be relying on to plot your course in life. That's not what it's designed to do. You have free will. I mentioned on a car navigation system, you can change the settings for the type of direction or course you want to go on, as far as how expedient it's going to be to get there. And it's just with free will, you can override everything if you choose to, and the navigation system will recalculate to make sure you kind of get back on path. But you can really take yourself way far out of the way if you start doing that. And if you rely just on the information from other people to help you plot your course, you run risk at getting lost along the way and getting sidetracked and just stalled somewhere. So always be very cautious of that. Never expect someone else to do the work for you. There are no spiritual lap dances because nothing's free. It's not going to fall in your lap. You're going to have to work for it. And you are going to have to be diligent when it comes to your destination and your destiny, because it's yours and it's based on your gifts, your abilities, your talents. All that's built into your navigation system, and it's specifically for you to take you where you need to be from one step to the next, to walk you through the life lessons in this life that you are meant to go through and learn from, that helps you with your ascension. So keep that in mind. Now, if you start to feel off track a little bit, what can you do? How can you do an update? And one of the easiest ways to do this is call your guides. That's the next card. Calling all guides. Reach out to them and say, okay, I'm a little sidetracked. I'm a little lost. Now, you're not telling them anything they don't already know. They've been with you the whole way in the back seat saying, now where are we going? What are they doing? You know, we're telling them to turn left and they're going right, or deciding to go through the Taco Bell drive-through. I'm sorry, that's usually me. But it's like, what are they doing? And so you can ask your guides, call them for help and say, help me get back on track. And then really listen to the directions that they start to give you. Again, they're there for your highest good. Your highest good means the most direct route possible to get you from the one lesson to the next in the easiest way possible. You'll learn, it'll be a little tough on some of the lessons, but they will help you get through that. So definitely call out to the guides to get back on track and to consider that an update to your personal navigation guidance system. Speaking of systems, the next one I want to talk about are fluid levels. And this isn't really a system, it's part of the overall process, but this is really important. Check your fluid levels. That's the next card. Our fluid level, our spiritual fluid level, if you want to think of oil, for example, many times oil symbolizes spirit. And so that is our spirituality coming in, the spiritual connection that we have. And are the fluid levels where they need to be? Have you been so busy in life that you haven't really had the time to stop and connect with your guides or with the divine, or however you choose to do that? Because that's what keeps that fresh fluid flowing in, and that's what keeps your fluid levels topped off where they need to be. Now, we know in our cars, if the oil goes low, we have the oil light will pop on. And if the oil goes too low, it can actually burn up the engine because it's not keeping everything lubricated. So it can be a crisis, and a very expensive one. It's just as important and critical in our spiritual life that we keep that spirit level full and topped off. We need that to move forward, to do what we're meant to do as light workers. So always check your fluid levels. And when it comes to that, it's like energy as well. Are you giving so much away that you're just slowly keeping your engine overheated all the time? You're just going, 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 and it's really creating a lot of friction in the engine, and it causes the fluid levels to drop. Make time in the earlier card talking about grounding and recharging your battery. That also impacts your fluid level. The fifth system is the fuel system. Now, this is huge. The fuel is what you put in your car to keep it running. It needs that. And this card, the next card, is change the fuel filter. Now, this filter is really important because in a car, if you are a person that always looks for the cheapest gas possible, then you're going to run the risk of getting cheap gas. It's watered down, has possibly contaminants in it, or all kinds of debris. So we have to check that with our spiritual vehicles as well, to make sure that we keep that filter clean, to really keep all that debris out, so it doesn't clog up the system and the emissions and all of that, it just causes everything to be sluggish and it doesn't work the way it's supposed to be. And that can happen with us. So there's always a lot of debris that can be mixed in with our spiritual gas on our journey. And what can that look like? It's many things. It's largely coming from where you choose to refuel. If you are going to questionable sources, there's no telling what you're going to get. Whereas normally in the regular world, if you go to a certain type of gas station, they have certain levels and you can kind of be safe. With my hybrid car from day one, and I've had this for a while, I have only fueled at Shell stations. I want that particular type of gas. I don't know, but I do. But every different company is different. So you have to be very cautious about where you spiritually refuel. If you go to sketchy places, you're going to get sketchy fuel, and that can really clog up the system. Now, when I say fueling, that can also be who you go to for information. Let's say that you have a certain path or your intuition is telling you to do this, but for whatever reason, you start listening to this over here and you know it's not right. It just feels off. It feels heavy. It feels dark. It feels contaminated, yet you do it anyway. You run risk of possibly getting some debris in your spiritual fuel system. So always check the filter, keep that clean. And your filter is your intuition. You can tell and you can feel what's right and what's not right. The next card deals with the radiator. And this says, is your antifreeze frozen? Now, antifreeze is something that not a lot of people think about, really. It's just kind of always there. It doesn't usually, unless there's a hole in the radiator, it pretty much stays the same. And whenever you take it in for an oil change, they often check that too. And we don't think much about it. But antifreeze is very important in the engine of your car because it serves two purposes. Number one is it keeps the car from overheating or from freezing. So the antifreeze works two ways. It can raise the boiling point to keep the car from overheating, and it can also lower the freeze point to keep the car from freezing. And that's critical because the engine needs that, because if the engine overheats, it can have all kinds of issues. And if it freezes, again, issues. You can actually create cracks in the engine block if you're not careful. So you got to keep those fluids. It's the same way in our spiritual life. So what would the antifreeze be? To me, I think of this as almost the emotional levels that run through our life. So let me give some examples. Are you the type of person that you're prone to losing your cool? I mean, there's certain things trigger you and you just lose it. Are you a person that possibly blows a gasket, blows a gasket whenever something happens unexpected because your emotions are just so one way or the other? Normally on a scale of 1 to 10, ideally people should operate between 4 and 6, but there are some it's 2 or 9 and they go back and forth. And we all know people like that. And it's like we walk on eggshells around them because we never know the reaction that they're going to have to something. And sometimes it can seem so trivial, but they literally lose it. It's possible that their spiritual antifreeze needs to be checked just a bit. We should have a pretty normal operating system that way. So if there are things that happen in our lives that cause us, and we all have these, we do, that cause us to be triggered on something, that's actually part of a lesson that we're supposed to learn. We're supposed to pay attention to that. It's like, okay, I am triggered. I realize my antifreeze level is not where it needs to be right now. I need to check that and figure out what's going on and focus in on that red flag that's triggering you emotionally. And that helps you see where you might need more antifreeze. And the more you see those patterns, that helps you in the future to keep your spiritual engine running at peak performance. And that's ideally the goal of all of this. So if your antifreeze light is blinking right now, or whenever you see it blinking, that's a sign to pull over and just take a rest, let your engine cool down, get everything back where it needs to be. And while you're cooling down, think about what happened, what caused me to overheat. And in my overheating in that situation, did I really show myself to the world in the light that I want to show myself in? Or did I just lose it? And we all do. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just a sign to say, hey, this is something that we can learn from. What a great opportunity. So your antifreeze is very important in your life. I hope that this 6-point checkup has helped and that you've heard some things that you might consider in the future whenever you're on your spiritual journey traveling around. If something happens and you see a check engine light come on one of these 6 areas, you'll know what to look for and also how to correct it. Thank you so much for following me on the metaphysical journey, and have a really great day.